Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of SHU Doing. I am your host, Aaron Burrell, alongside my co-host.
Yeah, what's up? Our special guest today. We had it. It took us a long time.
Let's talk about it. This is a special episode.
We recorded 4 times, and we shot 4 times. We're 1 for 4, so we got her.
Listen, hey, if it was baseball, that's Hall of Fame batting average. So you know what? If you hit the ball once every 4 times, you're going to Hall of Fame.
Point, yeah, pretty much.
We got a Hall of Fame guest here with us, the one, the only Chelsea Sherrod in the building. I wish we had an audience so we could have him clap it up.
Honestly, guys, I'm just honored to be here.
That's how we feel.
Like, you guys are crushing it. Can't keep up with y'all.
Oh, can't keep up with us.
Definitely can't keep up with Paul.
No, that's a fact. That's a fact. I'm a little easy,
no,
but
you guys got
I get left on scene by her. Like then she's like, "Oh,
listen, we got her. we got her on the pod before because listen.
Oh my gosh.
We are like 3 months away from not being able to, like, we're gonna have to like write to her people and be like, once upon a time, I knew her way back in the day.
Listen,
maybe I'm gonna be her.
I don't have an agent yet, so you guys are good right now.
I'm right here. So.
Paul's shooting his shot, everyone.
Right.
Paul's shooting
I just signed
his
some
shot.
content creators.
I respect it. I see what's going on over there.
All right.
I see what's going on.
We'll talk.
We'll talk about it. Well, this is a Sacred Heart podcast, so let's talk about it because you went to Albertus for undergrad and then Sacred Heart for graduate school.
Yes.
Talk to us about why Sacred Heart for graduate school.
Well, I grew up in Bridgeport. My family's house is literally like 5 minutes away from Sacred Heart. So we've seen the evolution of this campus that has completely taken over in a good way. Yeah. So it's always been in the back of my mind. And I always knew that SHU had a really good communications program. Mm. So it was like a no-brainer. And the program that I did too was all online. Gotcha. And I was working at the time. So I was able to do that. At the same time, and it was honestly one of the best experiences ever. Yeah. So I'm a proud alum now.
Yeah. And like Miller just said, now you can use the studio whenever you want.
Shout out to Dr. Miller, because he doesn't know this yet, but like we are besties now. He doesn't know yet. He doesn't know. He's my guy. I like him a lot.
It's crazy because, like, we were talking about this earlier for the folks who obviously were not privy to that conversation. Chelsea and I go back to
way back,
yes.
2018?
2017, 2018, yes. I had actually
2018.
Yes, 2018, yes. PG, you, me, OC had gone and interviewed Brandon Sherrod, Yale basketball player. Yep. Reason for the most viral Baylor outburst.
No, literally every March Madness that clip comes back, and I'm like,
they grabbed more rebounds when it hit the backboard, came down with it. They did that more than us. So we interviewed Brandon Sherrod, Yale phenomenon, now coach at Yale. Shout out to Brandon. Congrats again. Yes. Interviewed Brandon, and one day I'm at work at NBC. Like there was that little like break area where I was grabbing coffee, and then all of a sudden Chelsea comes in. She's like, "I know you."
I recognize that big head.
Right? She's like, I can recognize that big head anywhere. So she's like, you interview my brother, and I'm like, who's your brother?
Aaron is like, who is this random girl like coming up to me? Mind you, I'm like, that's a black man. And I'm like, oh.
But the funny thing is, I seen you from far away, and I was like, oh, we got a new black person in here. I was like, oh, hold up.
And I'm like, of course he knows my brother. Like, of course this just happens. And he was so nice about it, which I appreciate, like, to this day, because you could have been like, back up, like, but it was cool. And then now, look at us.
Right. You are crushing it. Like, that's an understatement. Yes, we were co-workers.
Different departments, right?
Yeah.
Different departments, but we both worked at NBC Sports at the time.
Yeah.
Was that your first job out of college?
It was technically my second. So, like, I was an operations technician at Files One News in Rybrook. But it was like a year and a half into that, and I started getting the itch. I applied at NBC Sports for like a PA job, and I thought the job was full-time. And I get to the interview, and they're like, this is actually part-time. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll just do both at the same time. So I did both together for a year. Okay. And then right after that, I got my first on-air job.
Actually, before we go into more of the career stuff, what was the time period of going undergrad to grad school? Like
4 years.
Yeah, so what was that like going back to school? Like,
dude, so you know what? And it's so funny because I always told myself I want to go to grad school, but I always envisioned going straight through.
Yeah,
because I'm like, once I get into like real adult, like I can't do it.
Yeah.
But because it was COVID, so I started in 2020 and work was different because of like no sports or whatever.
Yeah.
I was just like, this is the perfect time. And honestly, it was incredible.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's so funny because I remember when I think you posted your graduation.
Yeah.
And I think I hit PG up. I was like, wait, hold up. When did Chelsea go to our school? I'm like, wait. He was like, no.
Yeah.
He's like, I've known that. He's in the know. So he's like, I've known
he's
this.
always in the know. Paul's always in the know.
And I was like, I was like hyped. I was like, we got another Sacred Heart 11. He's like, yeah, I've known.
Nah, we're connected forever now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
We're linked.
So, all right. So when you're at FiOS and when you're at NBC, you're like, listen, cool job, great learning experience, but ultimately not where I want to end up in the field.
Yeah.
Your first job, if I'm remembering correctly, it was New York, upstate New York. Was it Elmira?
Utica.
Utica,
New York.
Okay. I was close.
And you always knew you wanted to be on camera?
Yes. So that was how basically I got into the industry. Like a professor of mine was just like, we need to do student athlete of the month interviews. Can you do them? And I was like, sure. And that's when I was like, this will be so fun. And it's a way to like stay in sports after college is over. So yeah.
How was that transition? Because you were a collegiate athlete as well.
From playing to like working.
Yes. So like
the transition was, you know what I will say is it's been easier than I thought it would be. But also like I wasn't a D1 athlete where a lot of my life was devoted. Like granted, like yes, there's a lot of responsibilities and obligations, but I wasn't like, dang, like I could have went to the WNBA. Like, you know, like this is my whole life. I've been wanting this since 5 years old. Like that was not me. Like I always knew that like there was means to an end, like it was coming to an end. I think I was more optimistic because I'm like, I can stay in sports? Like, what? But little did I know that it's a grind. It's a real grind, especially in Utica.
Let's talk about it. Utica, because a lot of people, you know, they see on air, like the on-air talent, they think like life is glamorous. You know, you show up, you talk for a little bit, you go home, like your chauffeur is taking you, you know, all the fun stuff, right? Like you got your green room full of, you know, all the goodies and whatnot. But it's like, it's a real grind. And especially when you are going into local news, like that is a serious grind. What was that transition like for you?
Oh, man. So let me be clear. I went my first local job in Utica. I basically took a pay cut. Like I was making more money behind the scenes than I was in Utica, which was already like and I'm a grinder, like, you know, like just being like, again, like a minority and like your parents are like, what's your job? Where's your money? Like whatever. I was like, oh man, well, this is what I want to do type thing. I went into it knowing that I'm here for a period, like a short time period, and I want to move forward. I didn't have to sign a contract going there. So that was, that was pretty much like gave me the green light. Like, okay, like you don't have to be like quote unquote like stuck or tied here. But it was rough, man. It was like, that was the real awakening. Like when I was working behind the scenes, my mentor, Justin Walters, who I talk about a lot, he was a sports director at FiOS News. So I saw the grind that he was doing, but when I was thrown into it, especially local news where the sports departments are like the bottom of the barrel, low on the totem pole, you have no resources, you do everything yourself. Like, that was a rude awakening. I remember shooting my first high school football game, and when I tell you, it was probably like 10 degrees outside, 5 degrees. And I was shadowing the sports director at the time. It was like my first weekend. I was not prepared for that because I'm like, all right, I'm not going to stand outside the whole game. Like, we're just going to do whatever and like leave. When I tell you, I almost froze. Like, my fingers were frozen. Like, I caught a nosebleed that night. Ooh. It was so bad. And I was like, this is what you're in for type thing. Like, just like, do it. But I think I was always just like, there's part of me that I think as like former athletes or like whatever, there's like, I want to prove myself. Like I'm going after something, I'm going to prove myself. And I always had this in the back of my mind, like, I'm going to prove people wrong. Like I'm going to do this. Like I really want this job. I really want this lifestyle that I have seen. And so it was just like, just work through it. And it's very much easier said than done because there were late nights and early mornings and like not knowing like what you're going to eat the next day or like not knowing like when is that next opportunity coming? And a lot of that happened in Utica, and then it was COVID, and like that was a whole other set of challenges. And I also did 1 day of news per week, which I hated. Yeah, I hated it. You guys laugh, but like it was bad.
I can feel it. Like
it was so bad. But you know, a year and a half later, I was on to the next. Thank God.
What keeps you like motivated? Because obviously, like I know your family and stuff, and I know you have successful siblings and your parents.
Yeah. I would say my family motivates me a lot. Like I was kind of mentioning earlier, I was kind of like, we're all very competitive in like a healthy way.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm gonna one up you, but it's like, oh, okay, cool. Like I see you, like, you know. Yeah. My family motivates me a lot, but I think the other motivation too is just like when you put your mind towards something, like you just do it. Again, like the athlete thing, like you set a goal, like you're gonna reach that goal. Mm-hmm. And it's just like I feel like I just have a very like persevering, determined spirit and personality. That's just who I am. And again, it's like, and maybe this is a negative trait, I don't know, but it is like the I'm gonna prove you wrong type thing. Like that really drives me sometimes, because I feel like for women, for people of color, women of color, like there's a lot of, oh, you can't do this, or oh, you're just here because of this or that or whatever. And I'm just like, no, like I'm here because I worked for this. And so I think that drove me, and also the fact that I was making no money and away from my family. That was motivation enough. Like I cannot live here my entire life.
Upstate New York,
get me
land.
Dude, get me out of here. And no disrespect to the people of Utica, New York, because there are some nice people there, but ain't no way.
It was a good disclaimer because they about to be. I'm like, hold up. I
almost went there once because they had a UFC event, and I was confused on why. I looked it up, and I was like, why is it all the way up there? I was like, why are they having the UFC event all the way upstate?
No, I had to go. I'm just glad. I'm just really like, I'm really blessed again. Like,
yo, people don't understand that upstate New York is like it's like country.
It's so different.
Yeah.
It's
like not real.
It's not.
You said it's not real New York. Y'all really about to piss off upstate New York.
No, because it was funny.
Y'all are really about to have.
No, because some people like claim they're from New York and they don't live in the city. And then I'm like, no,
different.
You're not from New York City, because that's different.
It's very different. I'm just blessed to have only been
but
there
that's like the
to
pizza
the good
debate.
people of Utica. I'm not co-signing.
Listen, there was some good food there, like tomato pie, chicken wings. No. That stuff was good. I liked it.
Better than New Haven?
No way.
Oh, okay.
No pizza is touching New Haven.
There we go.
Oh yeah, we all know that. Yeah.
I forgot. I'm in the CT heavy.
What's your favorite pizza?
Out of like the big three?
Yeah.
Pepe's for sure.
All right.
What's yours?
He was disappointed.
Yours is modern? Is it modern?
No, Sally's.
Sally's?
Yeah.
Get him.
Sally's is number 3 on my list. It goes Pepe's, and Pepe's is clear. It's a clear front runner. Pepe's is about.
Changed.
Who changed?
They did. Pepe's changed.
Ooh.
Too
much. Who changed?
Sally's has the best sauce. It's fire.
I'm not. So listen, Sally's is really good. Don't get me wrong, but there's a pecking order. Like it's Pepe's, modern, and then Sally's. That's just how it goes. Everyone knows that. Respectfully.
Sure.
He's only gonna say
like
that because I know when we wrap this, he's about to be on. No, let me tell you why that.
You'll come on the pizza tour. Me and Brendan.
I would love to.
Alicia are already been planning it.
I would love to. Let's do it.
All right.
All right, great.
You want to be the host?
Yes. We're all gonna be there. Oh my God, yes.
We're going viral.
I would love a pizza tour. The people need to know, because there's a lot of New Yorkers
that
be in my mentions. Like,
obviously, you are a very forward-facing person. You are on SNY. How many days a week now? Like, it's
a lot.
A lot, you know. And so, what is it? How has that transition been? Of like, all of a sudden now people are in your mentions like, why didn't you, if you did big up a player they thought maybe had a big day or whatever it is, everybody's got opinions, and nowadays the access is a lot easier.
Yeah.
How has that been like for you?
Yeah. So like being in New York has definitely been an experience with that. Because they're not afraid to call you out, which I respect. Like the fans are like, they're committed and like they hold you to a standard, which like I appreciate, and they hold you accountable. But it also I think that's also part of the motivation right now with me too, is just like to do a good job, obviously for my company and my bosses, myself, but also like for the fans, because they have a certain expectation because we're covering the best teams in the world. But people for the most part, what is, but are very, like, they're not too crazy with me.
Okay. That's good.
One thing I will say, UConn fans, though.
Crazy.
Really?
UConn fans, they are strong. They have a strong presence. But it's nothing ever, like, super crazy to me, which I appreciate. I do think that people, for the most part, as far as the work that I do, like, they respect it if they see it. I try to go out there and just, like, make sure that, you know, like, I'm on 10, like, I know what I'm talking about, like, whatever. But they hold you accountable. Them UConn fans, though. Women's basketball fans in general. I think that the coolest thing, like, even from, I'm sure we're probably talking about this, but even from, like, this past week of, like, covering the Final Four and, like, all that stuff, like, I have never, ever seen women's basketball be talked about that much in social. And people were talking about, you know, that last play with UConn and Iowa and Aaliyah's foul call, and they were my mentions like, you know what you're talking about? That was a foul. Like, what are you talking about? Of course, the UConn silent reporter thinks it wasn't a foul. And it's like, yes, it's like, who are you talking to? But it's also like, I appreciate that people are just like paying attention. They're watching, like whatever. So there's a perspective to it. But you just got to go out there and just do your job. Like, if you just do your job, they won't come after you.
Yeah, 100%.
But, you know, that's what it is.
Yeah, what is that like? Just I think you've been following the whole year, right? So what has that been like in like even like interviewing Gino all the time?
Oh my gosh, honestly, it's been like a dream. Like, and I know that's a cliche, but like it legitimately has been a dream.
Yeah, being from Connecticut.
Yeah, like we grew up like and like UConn is Connecticut's professional team, legitimately. Like, no shade to the Connecticut Sun, like, who are incredible, but, like, UConn's won so many championships.
I'm still waiting for their championship, though.
I know, exactly. That's the thing. Yeah. That's the thing. It's been great. Like, I feel like throughout the season, I built a good rapport with the team and with Gino, just from our conversations, from the way, like, I present myself and my approach to things with them. So, like, they respect me. And also, I think, too, part of it is, I think some of the girls are kind of like, you know, like she's kind of young. I kind of like see in myself, like not in her, but like I can be that, or like we can relate on certain things, or like whatever. And so I think that's part of it too. But the conversations that I've been able to have with the team and with Gino have literally been like priceless. Like nothing else has been like it. And just to be that close to like a legend like that, and to see them work in the way they prepare, and the way they play, and the way they, like, hold each other accountable is, like, it's, like, the reason why, basically, like, this season completely confirmed everything that I thought I knew about UConn, being so close to it, to the way that they do everything. And Gino's a GOAT. Like, being able to just, like, have banter with him on the sidelines, and, like, it's, like, I'm like a baby in a candy store. Like, I'm like, oh, my gosh, this is incredible. But I also try to keep professional as well. Without fangirling too much. I am a professional. But it's been great,
Who was like your favorite interview this year? Or who's your favorite player to interview?
My favorite player, I will say, there's some really good ones. UConn they got a really, really good bunch. Probably Paige. Just because for a player of her caliber on a superstar level like that, to have that much humility, really speaks to like the type of person that she is. She rides for her team, and she's very thoughtful with her answers, which I appreciate. So Paige is dope. Like, I even right before like we do our interviews, like we kind of like talk a little bit or like whatever, we have our back and forth, and I just appreciate her being willing to open up to us. And so she's definitely one of my favorites to interview. But they're all awesome. Like, Nika and Aaliyah, who are leaving, like, their interviews are great. Like, Nika has one of the best personalities that I've ever dealt with as far as an athlete is concerned. Like, she's so real and raw. And she's not afraid to keep it real with you. And it's not always, like, buttoned up and politically correct with her. It's just, like, how she feels. And Aaliyah is just, like, a class act. And the one thing I love about her was that she welcomed me in with open arms before anyone else.
Really?
Yeah, like one of my first interviews with her. So I covered them last year with the Big East and the tournament. That's when I started. And when I had my first interview with her, she's like, "Oh, are you the new reporter?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Okay, girl." Gassed me real quick. And then when I saw them again, like for Big East Media Day in like October, I hadn't seen them obviously the whole summer. When she saw me, she was like, "Hi," like gave me a hug, and it just like felt so welcoming. You know what I mean? And like those little things really do go a long way, because the media, sometimes we get such a bad rap, and sometimes it's warranted because some people, whatever, but when a team really wants you to be around and they value your presence, like it is so game changing, because you can experience and benefit so much from those relationships. So
yeah, for sure. What about KK Arnold?
KK is amazing. I tell KK every time, I'm like, we're serious for about 20% of our conversations. And like the rest of the time, it's just like, it's just madness.
I think she's going to blow up.
She is, like, when I tell you, it was so funny. Gina was talking about her after the Final Four game, and he was like, KK Arnold can go by anybody in the country. And I agree. She's just that quick. She's talented. Obviously, she's a freshman, so she went through her freshman woes and things like that. But she is incredible. She has an amazing personality, which is great for TikTok. She loves TikTok. And for that generation of fans and things like that, people adore her. Yeah. And for a good reason. Like, she's awesome. She's so fun to talk to. And I appreciated her talking to me after that loss, where she was clearly very emotional. And as a freshman, it's really tough to have that conversation, because it's your first experience, and she was very, very emotional, but she was willing to do it, and she was willing to do it because of the relationship we had built and the rapport that was there. And so, like, that's why when I was talking to the students today, it's like that the relationship building is the most important part.
Yeah, it's like even me and AB, when we were doing interviews back in the day, and we were getting kind of people before, like they blew up, and we redid an interview like it was easy to get them, because they knew that we messed with them before, like, you know, they blew up.
Exactly. And they respect you.
Yeah. It's actually crazy.
Well, we're cool.
Yeah, like totally.
No, that report thing it's huge. It's crazy how you never know when you'll need like that like credit that you build with the person, you know, because it's like, I think back on, it was, you and I interviewed Lexi Brown.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
In Connecticut.
I interview her every year, actually, since her rookie year.
Oh, awesome.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like, you saw the Billie Eilish thing, like, I think it's Vanity or something. They interview her every year.
Wow.
So, yeah. So
that's dope.
So I'm the only one that has that.
Yeah, you are. Sorry, Paul. Paul's like, put some respect on my name. I just gotta remind y'all real quick.
Right, like, because I do that, and me alone.
Like that's like the guy that follows around LeBron, but I'm not that. Like, that's a little crazy, but his whole life revolves around LeBron, and that's like insane to think your whole life you've been covering LeBron for the past 25 years. Yeah, like, literally following him.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, don't got that much more time left, so gotta enjoy it.
Ain't that a fact?
You know,
I'm trying to get Bronny in there somehow.
Right, somehow, some way. I want to talk about, obviously, because your experiences as a reporter, like, you have done so much in media, you've learned a lot, I would assume. Yeah. What have been some of the biggest lessons that you have learned along the way?
Oh my gosh, there's so many lessons, dude. Like, one is that you never stop learning. You'll never have it figured out. I guess another one is, don't be afraid to try new things. Starting behind the scenes really helps. And I can tell even today how much that helped me. Just knowing the intricacies of things that go on in control rooms and a SAT truck and things like that. Also, to be yourself. And I think that for me has been the most essential one, because it's like, it's such a cliche and it's so much easier said than done. She's like, just be yourself. Like, just do you. Yeah. But it's like, what do you mean? Like, when you're on camera, it's like, you know, when you're watching people, idols, mentors, whoever, people that you want to be on camera, there's a certain, like, there are certain styles to the way that they relay information, the way that they do their hits, things like that. And so you kind of, in a way, like, mimic that, because that's what you're seeing, right? And then when you get on there, you're like, okay, this is how I should do things. Like, this is why they hired me. I need to sound like this, and I need to do it like that. Yeah. But when really they hired you at least at this point in my career, local news could be a little different. Like there are certain ways that you relay information locally than you do at a regional or a national network. Mm-hmm. But they hired you because they want to hear from you. Mm-hmm. Like they want your perspective.
Right.
They want Chelsea to say it the way Chelsea would say it. Mm-hmm. Because if they wanted everyone to be like cookie cutter and sound the same, which, whatever. Yeah, that's a topic for another day.
Yeah.
But if they wanted that, then that is what it would be. Mm-hmm. There are different personalities on air for a reason. And so that's been the biggest thing for me. And stylistically, I had to learn that. I learned that a lot, and I started to kind of come into myself more with that when I was at Nesson. And now at SNY, I realize that I am able to show more of my personality. I'm still working through that. Mm-hmm. And again, there are certain ways that you have to do things professionally. But I'm still learning that, yes, it is okay to just be yourself. Like, just be you. And it's like, I know it's very simple and like whatever, but like, once you're in it, you'll understand.
That's a word.
Be yourself.
No, that's real. That's real. I feel like as you go, most times you know we always hope to get people back, but I don't know if we got the budget to get Chelsea back on the next time.
Please.
So
wait, I got some fun questions. So
yeah, we got to get these fun questions in because listen.
So what's your what's your Mount Rushmore of like sports journalists?
Oh,
that's a great one.
4, so that's 4, not 5. 4.
Man, that's tough.
Or is there anyone that you looked up to or that you like emulate or study?
So there's a few. So the first woman, like of course, like I grew up like, and it was like Sage Steele, Carrie Champion, like on air. Like those were the two like main faces. You turn on ESPN, whatever, they're there. And then it was Maria Taylor for me because, and her story is so incredible, and I don't know if she would agree with this, but for me, when I watched her, it seemed effortless to me. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure it wasn't effortless to her in that moment, but she was just so good at her job, and she was so good in different like forms of sports. Like she was really, really good at football and basketball and like this and that, and she was just doing a lot, and I was like, wow, like she's so versatile. Mm-hmm. And that motivated me so much to like be like a versatile like journalist. And so when I was able to meet her, it was very fulfilling. Rosalind Golden-Woode, who used to be the Warriors sideline reporter, she was there during like their incredible run. Mm-hmm. And she was the first like, I guess like sideline reporter where I was like, oh yeah, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do type thing. And then Lisa Salters, she's a goat. She's just like,
legend. Yeah,
she just does her thing. Pam Oliver, like it's just, and it's funny because you know there aren't that many women doing those things, but like when I like put that list together, it's just like wow, like they're like giants, like you know, like, and I'm just so inspired by them. And there's so many other women who I look up to as well in different aspects of like media. Mm-hmm. But as far as like on air talent, like those were always the ones for me. Yeah.
Well, what's your ultimate goal?
To work national, sideline reporting. The thing is, I want to sideline report, but I also want to host. If I can find a space that will allow me to do both at a national network, that'd be great. I just haven't necessarily like. I feel like growing up in Connecticut, it's like ESPN, right? Yeah. Like, but I don't know. Like,
any specific sport?
I would love to do a lot of basketball coverage, like if possible. But I also want to be able to do like football, and I'm not really gonna say baseball. I would definitely do like pregame, postgame baseball. Like I do some of that stuff for the Mets for SNY, which I love, which I think is great. Baseball is just a really long season. I don't know if I exactly want to do sideline for that, but I want to be able to be versatile enough where like my boss can put me in a position and I can do it, and that's how I feel at SNY right now, which is great.
That's dope.
Yeah.
I want to ask about idols becoming everyday people, because it's like a real thing in this industry. It's like you watch all these people on TV and then all of a sudden you're like in a room with them.
Isn't that crazy?
And as a matter of fact, hold on, that just brought back a conversation I think you and I had about NABJ one year.
Oh my gosh, yes. Shout out NABJ.
Shout out NABJ.
Yeah.
I think I think maybe it was one of like
2019.
Yes, and I didn't go. Yes, and I went the year before. Yes. And we were talking about this, and that was one of those moments where when you were in that was your first NABJ, if I'm remembering our conversation. Yes, okay.
Yes.
See, all right, my memory's not as bad as I thought it was.
I'm slow right now. I thought that was a person for a second. I put two and two together.
The National Association of Black Journalists.
I knew what it was.
Come on, Paul.
But that's real, man.
Yes.
And NABJ was my first taste of that.
Yes.
Walking around and just being like, they're all here.
And they're all just like
everyone
chilling.
is here. And like it's so funny because like
it was in New Orleans, right?
It was in Miami 2019.
I went
Your
New
year
Orleans,
was
yes.
New Orleans.
Yeah, I went New Orleans.
Which both were like incredible.
Wow, I was mad I missed Miami. I was like, I miss Miami.
When I went, I was like, oh, I gotta come back.
Right.
But it was dope. Paul, pull up. But it is really, really cool because it's so funny. Like, they're real people.
Right.
Which is like, obviously, but it's almost like with our parents. Like, our parents' generation is so different, like, because they didn't have social media. So it's like when they would see people on TV and then potentially see them in person, it was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Where for us, it's like, oh, well, like, I follow them on social, so you almost have, like, a different type of connection to that person.
For sure.
But for me, like, being able to see, like, Michael Eaves and Elle Duncan and, like, all these other people, Monica McNutt, who is a good friend of mine. I love Monica. She's killing it with the Knicks.
Shout out to her.
It's, like, just really, really cool to just see them just live. Mm-hmm. Like, they're just existing. And it's, like, you can exist and have your life and be you and still be able to perform at an incredibly high level. Yeah. And NABJ was like the realization of that, which is dope. And everyone, especially journalists of color, obviously should go to NABJ.
100%.
Yeah. I got one last thing before we wrap it up. But actually, I forgot our worlds did collide at one point when I forgot what panel it was. But Renee Montgomery was on it, and you were on it because I got the email.
Yes.
And I was like, your name is on it. That was crazy.
Yes, at Nesson.
What was it? What was the panel?
I want to say it was probably like a women in sports panel.
Was that last year?
And it was I think it was 2022 or 2021.
Okay.
And Renee was awesome. Yeah. She just has so much energy, dude. Like she's such a ball of fun. But that was a really cool panel. So shout out to Renee.
You had one last question, or was that was your question? Okay. I mean, lastly, any advice for any student who wants to follow in your path that looks up and says, "I want to be the next Chelsea Sherrod." Yeah. What should they do?
Yeah, I would say to get into the industry as fast as you can. And like I know that obviously like Sacred Heart has an incredible grad program here. Obviously. Learn some skills. If you feel like you do need to obviously like go to grad school or get any other, definitely do that. You will benefit immensely from this program at SHU. But then try to get a job as fast as you can after you graduate. Could be behind the scenes, could be in front of the camera, whatever it is, get in, get experience. And then find someone in the industry that you look up to or that you want to be like or you want their job and send them a message, an email. Cold emails definitely work. Slide in their DMs, send them something. And try to just pick their brain. So I always tell students they definitely could pick my brain. I needed someone like that when I first started, which I'm really grateful that I had that. But yeah, get in the industry and then find someone, talk to them, get advice. Everyone's journey is different. So the more perspectives that you have, the better off you'll be. So yeah.
100%. That was dope. Listen, this has been an amazing episode. Chelsea, it's been great seeing you.
Guys,
great to catch up again.
I'm honored to be here next to you two.
Like I said.
I can't even
I need a clip of
begin.
that.
Right.
No, but for sure, like I really do appreciate you guys.
No,
and
no
it's good
doubt.
to see y'all.
Yeah,
like,
for real.
You guys are crushing it in the industry, and like it's really dope to be around you guys. So
that's how we feel. So everything you said is exactly how we feel. It's dope to be around you. Dope to see how like from NBC to now, like it's crazy to see. I love seeing on social media. I'll be following and just be like, there she go. Ask PG. I'll hit him about it. So if I'm lying, no, 100%. I'm like, yo, you see Chelsea? Yeah. He's like, yeah, I seen. I'm like, all right, word. My bad. Like, it wasn't that cool. I guess. I guess. You know, like,
I guess.
Right. Yeah. Everything is just all right. All right, word. But anyway, this has been another episode of What You Doing. We appreciate you all. We'll see y'all next time.